WrestleMania 34 just wrapped up here in New Orleans at the Superdome behind us. And two of the biggest storylines coming out of this show are MMA related, mixed martial arts related, UFC related, the debut in the ring of Ronda Rousey, and the possible departure of Brock Lesnar from WWE back to the UFC. Maybe. We'll find out. Marc Raimondi here from MMAfighting.com, along with, how about this guy, an old friend, John Pollock from Post Wrestling. And we're just going to chat a little bit about everything that happened tonight involving two of the UFC's biggest stars of all time. John, Ronda Rousey made her in-ring debut, and I think that expectations were probably tempered because anyone who follows wrestling knows that it's hard to make your in-ring debut. It's not an easy thing if you go from another sport, even if it is one that's similar to pro wrestling, and do it on a stage like this. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. How did Ronda Rousey do you think?
I don't think there's any way to kind of categorize her performance on Sunday night other than it was a home run. I think for all the boxes you want to check off that this match was designed to achieve, I think those expectations were met. I think in many cases they were exceeded when it came to Ronda Rousey. We knew that she has the athleticism, that this transition is possible, but what will that transition be like? Kurt Angle is a perfect example of someone who took to this very quickly, but he talked about having to unlearn so many different things of his amateur wrestling career. So with Ronda, we knew going in this would be a very heavily laid out match. It was, but I think all four performers in that match played their roles to a T. I think with Ronda Rousey, she was tremendous in this match, even with areas of her performance that you would think would be a weakness. She showed a lot of promise. I think the booking was very strong, and she came out of this match a huge superstar, which is what the company needs her to be coming in now.
As far as combat sports athletes going into pro wrestling, shooters, I guess you would call them, where does this debut rank? I mean, is it up there, do you think, among the top ones, especially when you consider that it was here at WrestleMania?
I think just given the stage, it's going to receive such a huge spotlight. The fact that she went out there and absolutely was not embarrassing, took to it very effectively. I think that overall, to judge it, like, it was a tremendous first impression. I don't think she could have made a better one. And I think a year from now, we'll look at kind of the overall package. Is she going to be someone that comes in and suddenly is going back to a Kurt Angle, just because he's the easiest comparison point. I mean, within a year after coming up from Memphis, like, this guy was outstanding in so many different areas of what you need to be a successful professional wrestler. I think Ronda Rousey, the in-ring portion, I don't think you could have any complaints over what you saw Sunday.
Do you think that next year, WrestleMania 35, it's going to be at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey? Could it be Ronda Rousey headlining that event, you think? Is that a possibility?
I know that it's something that the company, like, that is a goal, to have the women headline a show. And if that's going to happen, Ronda Rousey would have to be part of that. If she is able to be utilized effectively over the next year, which they have so much invested in her that you would think that they are going to have a real concrete battle plan for her, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Over this next year, they have their television deal coming due, where Ronda Rousey's a huge figure in that entire scenario, and how she can attract an audience that you and I know firsthand that when she was fighting, she would have an audience unto herself that she could bring in to buy fights. And if she is able to bring in an audience that are going to be network subscribers, that are going to be viewers on television, this is someone that you do want to market in a headline position, which is where she should be at.
Especially with the broadcast deal being up and then negotiating new contracts. Speaking of broadcast deals, the UFC's is also up and they're negotiating, and they're looking to bring in some big name stars, some bankable names. One of them named Brock Lesnar, who has obviously made a name in WWE. He's the WWE Universal Champion coming tonight against Roman Reigns, and he won. He went over, he held the belt. There was much speculation that he was going to lose the belt to Roman Reigns and then go right back into the UFC. Dana White said last week at that press conference in Brooklyn that Brock Lesnar's coming back. It's just a matter of time. There's no deal, but he's coming back. Did anything that happened?
Dana wouldn't tell a fib either.
No, I mean, of course. I mean, Dana was here actually tonight, by the way.
He was here.
He was here for Ronda Rousey and didn't stay apparently for Brock Lesnar. He left the building before Brock went on tonight. Does Brock Lesnar winning and keeping the belt, does that matter at all toward the fact that he could go back to the UFC?
I don't think it's a concrete sign that he's staying. I think that these deals are very much fluid in the sense that we don't know the exact end date of this deal. Right. They could easily tack on another month. He could drop the title. He could drop it on Raw theoretically if they were willing to work out a deal with him. They could keep it till Backlash and he drops it. There's also the fact that at the end of the day, at crunch time, we know the kind of negotiator Brock Lesnar is and which side will blink first. Perhaps the WWE, they don't want to lose this guy, and they're going to make an offer that is exceedingly handsome for a Brock Lesnar to make. Conversely, on the UFC side, I think they look at Brock Lesnar as someone that is that shot in the arm they want this year for pay-per-view. With everything that happened with Conor McGregor over the past week, it's a weird situation that somehow, to me, it increases Brock Lesnar's leverage. So I think he's very much being sought after, and he's someone that keeps his cards very, very close to the vest. But the win was a surprise. It was designed to obviously shock everybody, but I don't think it necessarily signals he's staying or that he's going. I think that the title could be dropped relatively soon, and all these plans of him going back to the UFC, they very well could still be in motion.
If you had to give a prediction, John, what do you think? Does he stay in WWE? Does he go back to the UFC?
The safe option is staying in the WWE. He will make a lot to work here for the company. He's 40 years old, which in pro wrestling, that is not all that old. In MMA, though, like his single night purse that he can make is extraordinary, and the UFC is in a position where I think that they want to have that kind of an attraction this year and really beef up their pay-per-view business. And as they go into negotiations this year, they're ongoing as we speak, they want to have that momentum, that buzz, and I think a Brock Lesnar being part of the product again, I think that's attractive to a lot of television executives that want a hot product. So my gut says that I feel he will do one more fight. I just think there's so much money for the guy to be made. But I also feel he's going to be back in WWE at some point too. I think that option is always going to be there on the back burner for him for a return.
One last thing, John. MMA fans, do you think they may have tuned in tonight to see Rousey, to see Lesnar? And if so, do you think they were won over? Do you think they'll become subscribers to the WWE Network? Do you think do you think this is the kind of the card that could have brought some new fans from the MMA world over to WWE?
I think ultimately there was a curiosity factor for the first match, just of, is this going to be a train wreck? Is this going to be something really spectacular? I think you got a tremendous match. I think that there will be a portion of the audience that does stick around. We've followed the industries for so long. We've seen kind of that bleed over effect. When the UFC was so hot, I think it was a lot of wrestling fans that were buying those pay-per-views. Are we going to see the reverse effect now of a lot of MMA fans that maybe are not buying as many MMA pay-per-views, UFC pay-per-views, that will become subscribers? So I think that you will have some retention. I think over the long haul, if they're not wrestling fans, this probably isn't their world, that they're going to stick around week by week. But when Ronda Rousey is part of a big match, I think you'll have that drop-in factor that a Lesnar can have, that a Rousey can have.
All right, I think that wraps us up here from the Superdome in New Orleans. They're breaking down the ridiculously lavish set that WWE had for WrestleMania 34. For John, I'm Marc. See you guys soon.